know, this was a political arrest. Police don't need a dozen police SWAT team-style public takedown on a peaceful Christian pastor on the side of a busy highway for a provincial offense. It's really a glorified traffic ticket. That was a political decision made by politicians. So were the decisions to put him in jail for 49 days. This was the Grace Life Church in Edmonton. 100 police seized it, nationalized it really, put latrines right on the front steps of the church. Try that on a mosque, see how far you get. They set up a little police bunker there. They really put a big fence around it. It was like an outpost in Afghanistan or something, because they opened their doors during the pandemic. Again, not a crime, a health infraction like finding mice in a restaurant. That was a political decision made by politicians. That was not real policing. Same thing with all of them. Do you think the jailing and arrest of Tamara Leach was not political? The reason I tell you that and show you those two Alberta examples of the churches is that the politician who made those atrocious decisions, Jason Kenney, is gone in large part because of those atrocious decisions. And you saw last weekend that the new premier, Danielle Smith, who ran on an explicitly anti-lockdown platform, you saw that she fulfilled a campaign promise already by apologizing to the unvaccinated for their unfair treatment.
The community that faced the most restrictions on their freedoms in the last year were those who made a choice not to be vaccinated. I don't think I've ever experienced a situation in my lifetime where a person was fired from their job, or not allowed to watch their kids play hockey, or not allowed to go visit a loved one in long-term care or hospital, or not allowed to go get on a plane to either go across the country to see family or even travel across the border. So they have been the most discriminated against group that I've ever witnessed in my lifetime. That's a pretty extreme level of discrimination that we have seen. I don't take away any of the discrimination that I've seen in those other groups that you mentioned, but this has been an extraordinary time in the last year in particular. And I want people to know that I find that unacceptable, that we are not going to create a segregated society on the basis of a medical choice.
She had said similar things before. Here she was a few days earlier in Edmonton talking about adding the unvaccinated to the list of people you can't discriminate against under the Human Rights Code.
So one of the things that we'll be coming through with in the fall as well is a change to the Human Rights Code to make it illegal to discriminate against anyone on the basis of their COVID vaccination status. Now, I recognize that there are still some organizations and some businesses in Alberta that is doing that. And I just want to sort of give you fair warning that we are going to be making a serious pivot in that regard. And I would just ask if you would work with us to align your policies with the direction that we want to go in Alberta, because we want to send a message to the community and to the world community and to the investment markets that this is a place that is open for business, that this is a place that believes in freedom. This is a place that believes in free enterprise, and this is a place where we're not going to be making arbitrary decisions that are going to disproportionately impact the small and medium businesses in this province.
And the most interesting part, I thought, was when our reporter Celine Glass asked Premier Smith if she would stop prosecuting those old tickets and charges made under Jason Kenney's regime.
Celine Glass from Rebel News. During your campaign, you said that not only would you issue an apology to those prosecuted during COVID restrictions, but you would also grant them amnesty. When can we expect those apologies?
I can apologize right now. I'm deeply sorry for anyone who was inappropriately subjected to discrimination as a result of their vaccine status. I'm deeply sorry for any government employee that was fired from their job because of their vaccine status, and I welcome them back if they want to come back. As for the amnesty, I have to get some legal advice on that, and so I've already asked my staff to request that advice so I can see how we would be able to proceed on that. My view has been that these were political decisions that were made, and so I think that they can be political decisions to offer a reversal, but I do want to get some legal advice on that first.
Would that also have to do with the timeline for the proposed amnesties?
I would have to see if I can do it, I will do it at the earliest opportunity. So I'm hoping within the next week I'll get that legal advice.
Interesting, and really, why not? if they were political decisions to start them, as in not legitimate law enforcement priorities, not normal law enforcement tactics, why can't the next leader change things back to normal, especially since she campaigned on doing so? Huh. I don't know if you saw, I mentioned it briefly. Just this week, New York Supreme Court ruled that firing unvaccinated employees was illegal. And not only do they all get their jobs back, they get back pay too. Interestingly, the court said the whole justification for vaccine mandates was a lie because vaccines do not stop the transmission of the virus. So the claim that you need to do it to protect others wasn't true. Isn't that amazing? New York. The pendulum is swinging back. Even Charlie Crist, a lockdown Democrat in Florida, he was debating against Ron DeSantis, and the Democrat was claiming to be an anti-locker downer. Take a look at this.
You're the only governor in the history of Florida that's ever shut down our schools. You're the only governor in the history of Florida that shut down our businesses. I never did that as governor. You're the one who's the shutdown guy. We need to have somebody who is at the helm that understands it's important to listen to science, to do what's right, to utilize common sense. You don't just shut down at the outset, and then when it's, politically convenient for you, you want to open back up to score political points.
Look, everyone has moved on. I showed you that major poll in the New York Times the other day, and less than 0.5% of Americans think the coronavirus is the top priority. It's a tiny fringe minority. You can see how small that club is just by going out in the public these days. There are still some people wearing masks out there, but it's a tiny number. Everyone else is living normally again now that the forced masking laws are gone. It was madness. It was a madness that lasted 2 years, but it's over. So why is that madness persisting in the government, still prosecuting people like Arthur Pavlovsky and hundreds, maybe thousands of others in Alberta alone? Well, luckily, I have the largest recipient of Trudeau's newspaper bailout money to explain to me. Post Media, which owns the Calgary Herald, they have the Trudeau answer to the question. And here's the Calgary Herald story about it. Smith's proposal on COVID-19 fine amnesty raises political interference concerns. Her language suggests that perhaps her intention is to actually interfere with those that are working their way through the system. Oh, really? So it was not political interference to start, but it is political interference to stop. Got it. Let me read a bit. Premier Danielle Smith's proposal to grant amnesty to those fined for violating COVID-19 public health orders could amount to political interference in the justice system, a University of Calgary health law expert says. Oh, so a health law expert says you can't stop a prosecution. Is there anyone more discredited as a class these past years than health law experts? Published in a Trudeau newspaper. On Saturday, Smith told reporters at her United Conservative Party's annual convention and general meeting that she's seeking legal advice on forgiveness for those being prosecuted in relation to laws introduced to help stem the spread of COVID-19 during the pandemic. And she won her leadership race. She won, but a health law expert says she cannot keep that promise. Who is this health law expert, by the way? What Smith is describing doesn't quite align with the idea of a legal pardon, said Lorian Hardcastle, an associate professor at the U of C's Law and Medicine faculties. That's because Smith's comments specify outstanding fines, while pardons would apply to those who have already been convicted. Now, let me stop you right there. Who mentioned a pardon? A health law expert, apparently. Danielle Smith didn't mention a pardon. A health law expert, if she really was an expert, would probably know that provincial premiers do not have the power to grant a pardon. That's a federal matter. And the issues in question are not criminal offenses. They're not federal. They're provincial tickets, really. What you just saw was an excerpt from my nightly show, the Ezra Levant Show. Every weekday, I do a monologue. Usually it's about half an hour. Then I interview an interesting guest, and then we read my hate mail or my fan mail, whichever is more fun. It's only available behind a paywall, though. That's how we pay our bills here at Rebel News. We don't take a dime from Justin Trudeau. But the good news is it's only $8 a month, about half the price of Netflix. And in addition to my nightly show, you also get weekly shows from 4 other friends here at Rebel News. So you're getting 36 shows a month just for $8. I think it's worth it. And even if you're not quite sure, do it anyways, because we rely on viewers like you to keep us free and independent. I promise you I'll never take a dime from Trudeau. Just go to rebelnewsplus.com and click subscribe. Thanks.